Yeah, so this little girl Zoe turned around to me. She said, "Look, I'm being pimped out," and she'd been pimped out by a woman who had a street name called Foxy, and we did get Foxy convicted. And Foxy was a street prostitute who the police had known about for a long time, and there was always rumours and intelligence reports that she was involved with young girls for a long time, and they did nothing. They did nothing to curtail it, absolutely nothing. And she said, "Not just me, there's other girls." So when you see there was this drama about 3 girls in the north, it was called 3 Girls. It was about the grooming gangs in the north of England, 3 girls, which is terrible. But we had dozens.
It must be going on rife in London.
One day I found 10 in one day, 10 in one day, 10 kids in one day in prostitution. And I think the thing in Manchester, they had an incident room, a whole squad. There were 2 of us. It was me and a girl, another girl, and one girl led to another girl, led to another girl. Then there was boys being involved, kids' homes, and it was spiralling, and it was getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And then names started coming out, and the people that were involved, and it was getting higher and higher and higher and higher. And then there was a threat coming on my life. There was an intelligence report on my life, and there was a social worker came forward from Croydon, and she said, "Look, I hear what you're doing in North London and Central London. You've got to help us in the South. We've got the same, and we've been going to your unit, who was set up to deal with juveniles at risk. Right? They just didn't touch them. They just didn't touch them, and they said, but we've been going to them for a decade. And there's girls that they're dying. There's boys that are dying. There's one lad who was so in the latter stages of HIV. He was 11, and he's still being pimped out.
Oh,
there was one girl. Her vagina was so infected that she had open cysts in there, and she was still being pimped out. And the social worker said when we visit her, when she go and see us, there is pus just oozing out of her legs, and she's still being pimped out. And we go to your unit, they've done nothing. She's going to die. So I drafted a report and said, look, this is the reality. We need to really stamp on this. This is just growing bigger and bigger every day. And I was dragged in. I've got to be careful because I'm in civil court against the Met Police in a couple of months. I'm suing them for their failures, I've had the government inquiry, which I've given evidence about their failures, so it's been heard. So, but again, I've still got to be careful. I'm not going to name anyone, but I was when dragged in before the senior officer there, who's now gone on to be one of the most senior officers in the UK. And he said to me, "What you done? What you done, John?" He said, "Listen, you're a good lad. You're well liked and you're good at what you do." He said, "But I'm telling you what. You mention a word of what you found out outside this room, you're going to lose your home, your job, and your children. You shut the F up." And I was like, "What?" But I knew he meant it. I didn't mind the bloke. He was a nice bloke. He was well liked, but he changed. He changed, and I realised I'd trodden on some big toes here. He said, "You have no idea who or what you're dealing with. This is so big, you'll be thrown to the walls and no one can help you. You must listen to me." And he said, "You must promise never ever to look into this again." Now, I didn't listen to him. I did the opposite to him, and in due course I nearly did lose my home, my job, and my children and my liberty, and I will explain how. I was removed from that inquiry. It went to court. There was a conviction. Shortly after the conviction, Foxy was convicted. She was given, I think, 15 years, maybe something like that. She was the first conviction under the new legislation for grooming and for pimping out kids. Again, a woman. Woman paedophile, so very rare. She'd been active for a long time, but the saddest thing that the little girl at the centre of it, she was found dead under suspicious circumstances very shortly afterwards. And that broke me. That really broke me because she wasn't protected. This girl, she was so brave, and she was really. Her efforts went a long way to opening this up the way it has done. And so I always have a little moment of prayer for that poor girl and what she went through. And the system let her down, the social services let her down, the police monumentally let her down. And it shows it's broken, it doesn't work. But I went on to work with child protection in Haringey in North London. I found by the end of 1 week 50 kids that were being pimped out. Put a job together to sort of deal with it. These were kids that were in care homes that were just being taken to brothels, and just horrendous. It was the same pattern again, but just a different part of London. So within 10 minutes, ringing up these kids' homes, about 20 kids' homes, I'd pick up the phone. How many kids you got? Let's say about 5. They'll get $2,000 per kid. You know, meant to be looking after these kids in care. These are kids that come from abuse. They're meant to get therapy and put their lives right. And they said, no, they get picked up at night. 3 out of the 5 will get picked up on average, and they were taken to brothels and pimped out, you know. And that was consistent of all these care homes. So within one afternoon I found 10. By the end of the week I found 50. And I set up a meeting with social services, NGO, non-governmental organisations, outreach groups, all set up for kids. And the same thing was happening. I was threatened with someone who's very high up, and again, her details have been given over to both the National Crime Squads, the police complaints, and to the government inquiry. She's head up of one of the leading children's charities, and she basically said, "You're treading on toes, you step away now, you back down now." And then she colluded with a superintendent and basically got it all shut down.
God, dear.
It's
unbelievable.
Incredible. And these people, and I say to people, you be careful who you give money to, these charities.
Yeah.
And these leading children's charities, I'm telling you, knowing what I know now, some aren't all they seem. And that's all I can say. I don't want to get sued by them.
Yeah.
But there's 2 main ones, and one always claims, always on the telly, saying we're helping kids. You're not helping kids. They are not helping kids the way they should be helping kids. And absolutely appalling. So that, again, I get moved. Life sort of goes on to a point where it has its toll on you. Policing takes its toll on you, you know. It's a tough job. I was bringing up 4 kids. I was then working also as a tree surgeon at weekend to get extra money. Always on the go, but it was always in the back of my mind what had gone on, you know, what had happened, what had gone on. And I was thinking, this is corruption. This can't be allowed to happen. So I really wanted to speak out, but I had no way of speaking out, because you don't. It's just that culture. You can't. I need it. I was getting reckless, because what I was doing was I started smoking in the office, and I would drink. I'd come in drinking a can of beer in the morning. I wanted to be stopped. I was screaming out for someone to try and accost me, but no one did. Sometimes I wouldn't even turn up for work. Just weren't bothering to turn up. I was thinking, no, I'm not going in. They'd ring me up. I said, no, I'm in the north. I'm not coming. And I really took the piss, because I actually wanted to get arrested. You know, at the most, but at the very least, be accosted by a senior officer, so I could let them have it, so I could use it as a platform to speak out. But Jimmy Savile got exposed, and I thought, wow, this is brilliant. This is it. I've got it. And there was a couple of coppers come forward, so I linked in with them. And they put me in touch with politicians. So I linked in with them. They put me in touch with the press. So I spoke to the press. I did an interview, a podcast interview with the UK column. Lovely bloke called Brian Gerrish. He promised me he wouldn't put it out, but he did. He just put it out, and it saved my life. It actually saved my life. What he did. It sounds dramatic, but it's true. It did. It definitely saved my liberty. Because they couldn't touch me, because it was out there. Otherwise, they would have nicked me, you know. So I made an allegation of corruption in high office. And the strange thing is, this TV series, Line of Duty, has come out, and there's a line in there, and the last series, all about child abuse and the cover-ups in high office. And someone who dealt with the professional standards for the police has given my case details to the producers of that, because it is identical to what I exposed. And there was a line in it, and I know that it's been plagiarised, and someone has used my case to earn money working with BBC on this drama. And it was, I rung up the corruption command police and said, I need to speak to a high-ranked officer. They went, well, we'll put you through to PC so-and-so. I said, no, I'm not. I am not talking to a uniformed officer. No way. And I'm not talking to a man. said, I want a senior woman officer. And in the end, they got it. So a woman detective chief inspector rang me up. She said, can you come to a secure location and meet with us? And it was really weird. On my way there, I was accosted in a corridor by one of the men I was going to inform on. He was there. How are you, John? How you doing? And he started name dropping. Oh, you know, so-and-so screwed up the unit and, you know, and sorry to hear what you... And he was part of the conspiracy to bring me down, this guy. Thinking, what the hell is he doing there? It was really odd. So, I didn't think I was really being surveilled or anything. I was later to find out when I got my disclosure through from my civil case that I'd been under surveillance for 2.5 years.
Wow.
Anyway, so I went up, this woman met me and she said, tell me something, John. Why is it that you want to speak to a senior woman detective? And I said, because you cannot roll up your trouser leg. And that's what the Masons do, you know.
Right.
She just laughed. She said, I know exactly what you mean. So they took over a period of days, they took my statement. And then they said, look, you're bomb-proof. You are bomb-proof. But that's when the attack started. All of a sudden, I'm being served with discipline papers. They've gone through nearly 10 years of my internet records. My emails have been trawled. They started pulling me up for data protection violation, which would not only get me sacked, it get me in court. And one of the whistleblowers, she told me that. She said, listen, they're going to have you for data protection violations because that's what they do to all of us. Whenever we speak out, this is what they do. So I got, say arrested, it'll be summons by then. I got pulled in and they said, right, you're going to be sent to court for, and sent to a discipline panel for data protection violations, for misuse of intelligence. And I was worried. I thought, oh my God, I'm going to lose my job. So I walked out. And then I was done for talking to the press. I never actually spoke to the press. The story got leaked and I ended up in the Sun, the Star. I did speak to the Express in the end, you know, but the Sun and the Star leaked a story about me. So they did me that. And then I was arrested for, what was it again? Conspiracy to supply Class A drugs. And they said, right, all the other cases against you, and they were mounting up. They were really mounting up. And they said that they carry a 2-year sentence. This one carries a 15-year sentence. We got you. I went, well, what are you on about, you know? And I refused to be interviewed. I refused to be interviewed. And they said, right, well, here it is. And what it was that my friend was an undercover officer. And like most undercover officers, he went mad. Their mind goes, you know, it's too much for them, you know. They really run them ragged, you know. And he had something like about 5 different telephones, different identities, and all sorts of things. And he'd lost the plot, gone mad, left the police, and gone to live in France. And he got lonely, and he was being invited to the UK to do an interview. He had trust issues with the police, but he was my mate. I was his mate, and his legend was he would live as a tramp. He'd live on the street, and they'd send him all around the country, and he'd just live as a tramp. He used to piss himself, and he would actually smell a piss. He would stand there and piss himself, because that was his legend, you know.
What do you mean by legend? That's his act.
That was his act. Yeah, that was his altar. They call it
Talk about
legend.
taking the what do they call it in acting? Method acting to the extreme.
Unbelievable. This guy, bearded, and he used to have a bottle of methadone on him. So I said, "Are you still living as a tramp?" And he replied, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, when you come to London, give me a call." And it was all done through the police email because my surname was so easy to, and I was on the police email system. So you know, if you put in Jon Wedger at metpolice.co.whatever, you're going to get me. And he did. I said, "Well, I'll tell you what. You obviously not got it anymore. You bring the tenant super, and I'll bring the methadone. We'll have a cocktail."
Yeah, it's a joke.
It was clearly a joke.
Yeah.
So when I found out that's what it was, I laughed. I couldn't stop laughing. And they thrust the papers inside me and said, "You've got to sign for this." I said, "Yeah, I'll sign for it. Give me a pen, because I'm going to stick this straight in your eye." right? And the bloke, he froze. He didn't know what to do. It was like that. It was a detective inspector, and he was like, I said, no, F off, leave me alone. Leave me alone. If that's all you got, leave me alone. So next thing, I got threats to kill.
Oh, God.
Come my way, you know? And then, because I walked out, they stopped paying me. So I've now got no income. The bank came round to look at repossession because I can't pay my mortgage. You know, the banks get a hard time, but a woman that came round, she heard my story, and she'd been in a care home. She put her arms around me. She said, no one's touching your home, Jon. You make a minimum payment as like £1 a month or something, and the moment you're back on, we're back on with you. So I can't knock the banks. I can't. You know, when they say the banks do this, they were actually good to me.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of banks. But this woman, bless her, she worked for NatWest Bank, and I tell you what, God bless you, whoever you are, you know, you good woman. And I started then working with victims and survivors, activists. The most notable one is a man called Bill Maloney, a tough guy, you know, a little gangster from the streets of Peckham, lived on the streets since the age of 11, a victim of horrific child abuse. My best mate, and my best mate till this day, you know, this guy offered to give me his life savings, his money that he'd saved up for his funeral to pay my mortgage 1 month. You know, all my other mates in the police, a couple stood by me, of course, but all of them gone. They didn't want to know. Refused to give statements, refused to back me up. And then I've got an ex-gangster saying, yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. So
shows you the real mates are, doesn't it?
Unbelievable. And I've got to give a big shout out to a lady called Tracy. She does a lot in the therapeutic community around North London, not too far from here. And she did the same. I'd only known her a couple of years, and she said the same. She said, I'm going to sell my van, and my boyfriend's going to sell the van. We're going to give you the money. And, you know,
how lovely is that?
Good woman. So I was threatened with the loss of my home, my children, my job. So I'm now looking at losing my job because I've got to go before a discipline panel on 9 cases, you know. One of them's going to stick. You know, by the law of averages, one of them's going to stick. And that's it, my job's gone. You know, and there was a conspiracy against me. I'd been under surveillance for 2.5 years. I later found out. So everywhere I was going, I was being surveilled. I got a job on a building site, cash in hand. And I, you know, again, I'm like nearly 50 years old and I'm working 10 hours a day doing grafts, you know. I started block laying for a building firm. And again, they're going about, like I said, about racism, you know, you listen to their banter. You'd have never got away with that in the police. So, you know, it's very, but, you know, I'm out in all weathers now, you know, with the guys, and, you know, one of them, he'd been in the care system in prison and all sorts, and I'm getting 80 quid, you know, for a 10-hour day. I mean, I'm working minimum wage, hard graft, you know. And then I ended up in the national papers, and this guy liked me who employed me. He liked me, and he said, I've got to let you go. I said, why? He said, you've been in the papers and you're probably under surveillance. And I went, no, don't be stupid. I was under surveillance.
Yeah.
And he said, look, they'll come down on me, you know. So he said, I don't want to. So I had to leave that. Then I went and I started doing gardening and tree surgery, because I had to pay my bills. You see, and I wanted to pay the bank because it helped me. So I wanted to help, and I had to pay. And so now the cases, the CPS are taking the cases on. So not only are the internal discipline people going to sack me, the CPS are now running with the cases and they're going before a court. So I'm looking at prison. I'm looking at a Crown Court trial minimum, you know, because I'm not accepting anything. I'm going to Crown Court, and I'm going to, and you know, and I started saying, well, take me to court. I'll see you in court.
And this is all, to go back, this is all because you wanted to pursue it all.
Yeah, to speak out about the cover-up around children being pimped out and those involved.